contrast the U.S. economy, China is facing a lot of problems. Xi, in his New Year's Eve speech, said, "On the path ahead, winds and rains are the norm." God damn, I can't think of a worse way to bring in the new year than tell that to your population.
Yeah, it's interesting because Xi has been trying to portray a message of strength for the economy despite issues piling up that everyone in the news, everyone around the world has been seeing. But I think things have gotten so bad and the people in China are feeling it so much that it's suddenly more advantageous for him to say, I understand that you're going through challenges,
exactly
that
right.
You're feeling this, and we're working on it.
That's exactly right. That's FDR, bro. That's what FDR did. Like during the Great Depression, he was like, I see you, I hear you. But what I don't hear from Xi, which I did hear from FDR, is that we have a pathway to get better.
Okay.
I don't hear that coming from Xi. I hear a lot of doom and gloom, and that might be because of the excerpts I read from the speech are coming from Western sources. I'll give you that caveat, all right? Okay. But I just don't see the positive spin coming from him. I see a lot of fear. I see a lot of like nationalist jingoism.
Okay, I did see something about the government is going to subsidize the economy to make this better.
Did you?
Yes, I saw something about that.
Okay, sure. My information is going to be a little different then.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
So survey results, the PMI Managers Index, show that factory activity has slid deeper in December. So the PMI is on a decline in China and it's on an increase in the United States. China's PMI is sitting at 48. Again, US 47.6, but when we take into account the trends, U.S. is on the up, China's on the down, has been on the down for a while. It's only been declining month over month, quarter after quarter. So in order to deal with this, Chinese banks are planning on lowering deposit rates for savers so they can offer manufacturers and other businesses better deals on loans. So they're having private banks take up the majority of the stimulus. That's what's happening.
Okay.
The stimulus is coming from private banks. Because the deposit rate, what is a deposit rate? It means if I give a bank $10, if you had a 100% deposit rate, they would hold on to that they would hold on to that $10. If you had a 50% deposit rate, they would hold $5 and then loan the other $5 out to somebody else so they could go do something with it.
Okay.
Well, now they're saying, say it's $5. Now they're going to say, you know what? The banks only have to keep $1. Let's loan out $9 and make the banks only have to keep $1.
Okay.
And this is where money gets generated. This fractured reserve banking system. This is where money is created in the United States and everywhere in the world. This is how money gets made, through these loans, through banks. This is very normal.
The lower the deposit rate, the riskier the bet.
But the lower the deposit rate, the riskier the bet. And that what's happening is China will be taking on a lot more debt. And unlike the United States, its debt is not so much held. Chinese and American debt is similar on the governmental level. Okay, it's fairly similar on the governmental level. And in fact, in the governmental level, China might actually have less debt in its public sector as compared to the United States. Mm-hmm. But what's really interesting is when you take public debt out of the equation, when you remove government debt out of the equation, which is technically the safest form of debt, right? If you want to have any type of debt, you want public debt because no one's calling the U.S. on our debt with F-35s and a nuclear arsenal, right?
Yeah.
It's totally different when you're dealing with banking systems and manufacturers that have debt. Well, when we look at the percent of GDP in relation to debt, okay, of Japan, US, China, the European Union, basically all Japan, US, European Union have GDP to debt rates of 150%. Again, this isn't including government debt. This is only private and corporation debt, okay? Well, in China, it's over 200. And so what's going to happen with this bank deposits and the loosening of these restrictions, China is only going to see an increase in this amount of private sector debt. And this private sector debt is going to be one hell of a bubble if it bursts. Yeah. It's a risky gamble.
But that's where they're at.
That's where they're at. Now, why they don't take on more public sector debt? I think it's because the Chinese government isn't all that capable of doing so. I think the Chinese bureaucracy leaves a lot to its localities and states to run a lot of different economic systems. It does a lot. The local governments do a lot more in China than honestly what they do in the United States in a lot of ways. I mean, local states in China run their own welfare programs, their own social safety nets. They pick and choose their own infrastructure projects in a way that like the federal government doesn't really do. Like think about the way the federal government kind of does we're talking about the Scranton, Pennsylvania down to New York City Amtrak line. It's a different process in China, and I don't think that they have the bureaucracy to really do a fiscal stimulus the way the U.S. does.
I think you're right. I also think the federal government in China has more leeway or more agency to force the state governments, right?
Yes, that's very true.
So unilaterally controlled by Xi, everyone is working just to show loyalty to him. So if Xi says loan out money to the private and the local banks, they will do so. In the US, like if the federal government tries to tell states to do that and they don't want to, they'll fight it in court. It'll be a years-long process. It's just much harder.
Yeah,